another edition of Women Who Write Books. I'm just getting ready for everyone to join us. Why is Instagram telling me to do all this stuff that I already know how to do? But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this guest. It's someone a little bit different to perhaps what you've seen so far, simply because I've spoken to you about authors. I've spoken to you about people who are already writing, people who are already quite established in what they're doing, people who are already really into writing. And this evening's guest didn't ordinarily have that route. She didn't follow the path of a writer in terms of creating content. So she's definitely going to be offering something a little bit different, a different kind of insight. So if you're watching this and really feeling like you're not a typical writer, maybe you don't consider yourself a writer at all, you're really going to get a lot from this, because it's just amazing what she has done. And are we live? Are we live? Hi!
Hi.
You made it. Good evening.
Evening. Hold on. All I can see is comments. Okay. Hiya.
It's a little bit fiddly, isn't it? Hi, Angela. Angela's put some love hearts around her face in the comments. So thank you so much for joining me for Women Who Write Books. I was just saying how what you're going to share and your insight is so different to what we've covered so far, but also really encouraging to people who perhaps wouldn't ordinarily be writing, or wouldn't ordinarily, or maybe being an author wasn't necessarily their plan, and here you are to kind of talk about how you got into it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so I've got some questions that I'm going to ask you, and then what we'll do for everybody who is watching, you are more than welcome to post in the comments, and we'll get round to you later. But yeah, so tell us, for people who don't already know you, who are you and where are you based?
So my name's Karen, but also known as Dead Lips and Red Lips, which is like on all my socials. So and I'm actually based in Dudley, the West Midlands, but I work online.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm exclusively online.
Love that. I love that. Okay, so my next question for you is, when and why did you start writing?
Wow, Annika. So a couple of years ago, I stumbled upon a little Twitter networking group
Oh,
called Help the Queen Out, I believe it was.
oh, I remember that.
And I was actually introduced to that little network and yourself by Michelle McLean, who was on
She was on Saturday, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And I suppose that was when I first met like you, and then realised that you were an author and you spoke a lot about that. It was and it made me realise like I never knew a real life author before. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
So it made it a bit realistic. Like, oh, okay, like people do this.
Mm.
And then I remember you launched your Women Who Write, no, your storybook, your
Oh,
workbook.
what's your story?
Yeah. And so, especially from meeting you, I learned a lot about speaking things into existence. And
Mm.
like maybe sometimes you take steps towards something before you're actually consciously aware that that's what you're going to do. And so I remember buying your workbook and
Mm.
thinking, okay, I've brought the workbook now, so that means I must have some intention around writing a book of sorts. So that
Mm.
kind of sowed the seed. And then obviously
Mm.
our relationship has flourished, and I've seen you publish a few books since I've known you. So yeah, you've been a big inspiration, Annika.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. But I want to throw this back to you, okay? Because this is not the Annika show. I really do appreciate that. And for those of you who watch who may not know, me and Karen, absolutely, we met on Twitter. We are, and we're friends now. So, you
Mm-hmm.
know, do not like dismiss online connections, because they're so powerful. But and this is kind of straying away from what we do have in the questions, but you do write and have been writing. And I know that simply because, your Instagram account is just so full of really great content and always has been. So I suppose you've been writing and you've been collecting content over the years.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I've always shared openly on my Instagram. Well, not always, but I think it evolved around when I left unhealthy relationship,
Mhm.
and I think it became an outlet for.
Mm.
I started to find my voice like this. I started to discover myself. I realised I had lots of thoughts and feelings and opinions on things. Where when you're in a relationship that is all consuming, you lose parts of yourself in that sense, or you may have never discovered them. So obviously, when you've got this freedom and this, I just became more aware that I've got things to say, and I like talking
Mm.
about things, and I like writing. So yeah, that's how it all started, with being more open, probably being a little bit more vulnerable with sharing,
Mm.
and realizing that I that's so I found some of my strengths from other people who were sharing openly.
Mm.
Like it gives other people kind of permission, doesn't it, to do the same. So it was you that made me realize that I have been writing. And then I have got a collection of writing. So I'm still not quite there yet with like claiming the title of author, as you know.
Mm.
Um, but I'm acknowledging that I do like writing, and I have got a lot of content.
Yes, yes, you do. So you're kind of coming to terms with the fact that you can add writer to your name, and you can own it. And it is a process of kind of getting to a point where we do own it, and we're like, yes, this is me. But as we've mentioned, you've always been writing something. You've always been writing content for social media, sharing your stories, sharing your views, sharing your knowledge. So with where you are at now, what inspires your writing?
Um, I think it's just about connection, and kind of like connection and community, and wanting to. So obviously, I'm a non-diet personal trainer, and the fitness industry is very oppressive. It can be, it can
Mm.
be exclusionary. It can exclude a lot of people. And there's a lot of misconceptions about exercise and fitness because of that mainstream. So for me, I think it's about sharing information and sharing new knowledge and
Yeah.
sharing experiences, so that hopefully more people can feel connected to fitness and exercise in a way that matters to them, and not
Mm.
necessarily what they've learned from diet culture, so to speak.
Mm.
So not that I'm the educator, but I think it's a bit like, oh, like, did you know about this? Like, did you know that there's
Mm.
another way? Did you know that there's another way to approach fitness? And did you know that fitness can be for you? It doesn't have to look like this. It can look like
Mm.
how you want it to look. So I think it's just about opening a definition of what we've been taught as of fitness and exercise, really.
Mm. And I love that you offer an alternative, and you're not sort of saying it must only be this way, but you're actually saying consider this, see how this feels. This is, and you're sharing your perspective, which is really powerful, really powerful. Okay,
Yeah,
so
exactly. And it's that, isn't it? It's understanding that people have got autonomy and people want different things. People will experience exercise in different ways. But it's like, well, it's like taking down the barriers, isn't it? Like trying
mm,
to take down some of that barriers to make it more accessible for more people.
yeah, yeah, I love that. Okay, so I stumbled across something today.
Uh,
Looks like it could be your workbook. Do you think it? Have you got one as well? Um, so she says she's still coming to terms with being an author or being a writer, but does that look like a book? That looks like a book to me.
do you know what? Every so often I do pick it up and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I wrote that.
Absolutely incredible. So tell us all about Keep It Moving, the workbook and movement journal. Tell us all about it.
Okay, so, let me just let my cat out. Hold on. She
No
needs to get
problem.
out of the living room.
So this is Karen's workbook and journal that she wrote. She published this just a few months ago. And as you can see, there's some bits in there to write and stuff. But Karen's going to come back now and explain and just tell you all about it. What is this about, and where can we get it?
So it is. It's based on a course that I put together, a 6-week course, um, which was just about helping people to reframe fitness and
Mm.
discover more about exercise in a way they may not have thought about before, and like making it work for them. So you know,
Mm.
it was educational, but also explorative. Like you
Yeah.
know, to explore things. I don't know what the word is.
Well, you said it right. You said it right. Yeah, you did. I think so.
And then, so you also know that I think that we should try and make our services accessible, because I'm a single parent, benefit support, like I can't access things sometimes,
Mm.
like that has been a barrier for me. So I'm really passionate about trying to remove those barriers where I can. So I knew that not everyone would be able to do the course, and I believe that the course would be really helpful. So I was like, how can
Mm.
I get this to more people? And then we had a mentoring session, and then so I was, and like you did make me see that you've got everything that you need to put into a workbook, because I had done
Mm.
all of the work. I'd created the course, everything was there. And so I thought that's a great way to get my work out there for people who may not necessarily be able to do the course. So
Mm.
it's like a little parts of the course into a workbook with a little exercise diary at the end.
Which is amazing. I just want to point out, again, you already had this content. You was already developing a program. You was already, some of the educational bits in there, you was already including that as part of your program. This is stuff you already were kind of doing with your clients, but you just put it into one space,
Mm-hmm.
and that is your workbook. And I just think that's incredible. Absolutely incredible. Because it wasn't about reinventing the wheel at all. It wasn't like you had to start from scratch per se, because you already had the knowledge, which
Yeah.
is incredible.
Yeah, and so it's just transferring it to a more accessible format, I suppose, like a more widely accessible format.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm,
and you helped with that process. I have to say, like, I do think that sometimes you need that outside person to be like, you can do this, right?
mm.
And you're like, oh, actually, maybe I can.
And then you did.
I did.
And if maybe you'll do it again one day. I think maybe you will. But no, that's awesome. And you know what? Just well done, just for believing in yourself enough to try, even though there might have been some bits of fear around there. You still believed in it enough that actually, how can people have this this program without having to fork out loads, but they still get to do something in their own time, and then maybe when they're ready or they've saved a bit or whatever, then they can come to you for the actual program that you do. Okay, so you've written and created this, which is amazing, but you've mentioned you're self-employed, you work for yourself, you do your programs and your sessions, so and you're a mum as well, and a single mum as well at that. So in amongst all your other commitments, how on earth did you make time to write this?
Well, first of all, right, it was kind of easy to make the time because I felt so
Mm,
passionate about it. And I think
mm,
that helps when you feel really connected to your work.
yeah.
Um, but obviously, to try and fit in with chunks, I set myself a timer once for half an hour, and I had to, I like tried to, basically, I tested myself, how much can I write in half an hour? And
Mm,
I think it averaged around 400, 500 words. So I just set myself a little goal of 500 words a day was too much, and I knew that I wouldn't be
mm,
able to meet that goal. And I don't like setting myself up to fail.
yeah.
Um, so I just said 500 words every other day, and that's it. And I just did it in little chunks like that. Or sometimes on the weekend, I must say, because I
Mm,
felt so connected to it, I could just sit for a couple of hours and get things done. So it started off like that, just breaking it
mm,
down into little half an hour chunks in between clients. And uh,
mm,
so sometimes I could do more than 500 words a day if I did a couple of chunks. But like my 500 words was at least try and get 500 words every other day. And
mm.
that really helped.
There you go. And I love that. I love that you weren't trying to hold yourself to a very strict structure of you were going to write this many words every single day. Because I imagine there are some people who could keep up with that. I personally couldn't.
No.
You were really realistic with what you had capacity for.
Mm-hmm. And I so also acknowledging like there was some weeks where I might not have done any work on it, but then realizing that the week before I'd done some on it every day. So I'm quite good at that though, recognizing my peaks and my lows, like work
Mm.
my own mind.
Yeah, no, that's so awesome. And this is it, like writing a book of any kind is not easy because it requires so much in terms of creativity and content, but also of yourself, of knowing when you have, a burst of inspiration, or when are you most active, when are you lows. You realize that when you start writing that process, and it just sounds like, the work that you've been doing for yourself, you really understood the way that you can do this.
Yeah. And like when you talked about how hard it can be to get going. So I've done a lot of work lately around imposter syndrome,
Mm,
and I kind of feel like I've took the imposter syndrome coat off
mm,
and I've hung it up, and like I just do it. Like, do you know what? It might not be the best. It's never going to be perfect, but it's you. I think something you said once was about people just want to hear it from you in your words. Like,
mm,
'cause I remember thinking, but I'm not. I haven't gone to uni. I haven't got a Well, I have been to uni, but not for writing. I haven't got a qualification in writing. I did really well in English GCSE, but that was like how many years ago? So there was a little bit of like, have I got enough knowledge around grammar? Like, do I put things in the
mm,
right way? But I remember you saying to me, people want to hear it from you in your voice, and that is what people are invested in. So
mm,
that took a big barrier away from me, and I was like, do you know
mm.
what? I'm just gonna talk and write as me, and yeah, that helped a lot.
Yeah, do you know, I remember saying that as well because I think it was that kind of view of when you are writing, when people are writing a book, it's easy to kind of become under the assumption that you must adopt a certain style. But actually, what if that's not your style? And that's fine if nobody already knows your style, but you already have, an audience, you have your newsletter, you have your website, you have your social media, you're already talking and in conversation with people that follow you. So if they pick up this book and it doesn't sound like you, it's not going to feel credible, is it?
Yeah.
You're not going to buy into it. So I'm really glad that you were able to bring your energy and the way that you communicate to it, because that's what makes it so great. Because there could be a lot of people who do similar work, but only you are going to approach this in the way that you're going to approach it.
Exactly. So it's that finally stepping into that confidence of like I'm enough and I'm capable of
Yeah.
saying these things, and some people, are interested
Mm,
in hearing. And yeah, you're not going to be for everyone all the time, are you? But the people who you are for, they appreciate your work. So
mm.
yeah.
And I really like what you said about you took the imposter syndrome coat off and you hung it up, and it sounds like you put on the coat of I can do this, and I love that.
Yeah, I'm trying. It's hard. It's not easy, but I do feel a lot better about it, and I feel
Mm,
a lot more confident in myself in that way. And I think it's also removing the perfectionism and like
yeah.
showing up authentically, knowing that we'll get things wrong. We'll want to edit things, and like, do you get what I'm saying? Like,
Mm,
we don't have to be perfect, and I think we expect too much of ourselves sometimes. And if you show up
mm,
like with your authenticity and like with the good intentions, like the best intentions to your knowledge,
mm.
but be open to being wrong, and like you can't. That's a good approach, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
just explore things and be more creative that way.
And see what happens, see what
Mm-hmm.
comes. Okay, so I can see we've got some comments. I'm going to quickly go through them before we move on to the next few questions. I can see we're just getting lots of support, lots of hellos. Hi, Octavia. I can see. Hi, Lisa.
I've just got to say, Stella has put you inspire me so much now. Stella, you inspire me. Oh, Stella is so strong, and she's like one of my lifting inspirations. So
Oh,
the
amazing.
feeling is very mutual.
No, I love that. There's a lot of love and support in the comments. Okay, what have I got? Yeah. Lisa says words are powerful. Octavia says, loving all these gems that have been dropped tonight, ladies. I've got my notepad, and I know Octavia. I've known her for a long time. If she says she's got a notepad, she's making notes, definitely. Lisa says, I'm glad you found your voice in your own writing style. And you've got Stella who said, you inspire me so much. And Lisa said, it's all learning. And yeah, it is. It's all learning. It's not expecting yourself to know exactly what the thing is to do. And there's no one right way of doing it. You know, there's your way of doing it.
And it's knowing that, like, that there's enough room for us all. Everyone has got a different approach. Everyone needs a different approach. We change our mind about things, like, so there's, you know, it's not about like me saying the same thing. It's me saying it in my way and in my voice, and you know, that might be appealing to some people.
And it is, it absolutely is, and I love that, absolutely love that. Okay, so something for you to think about with our next question.
Okay.
You've written your book. You're already on this journey of you know, really knowing yourself, but what has writing this taught you about yourself?
That I'm brave. Like, okay, so sometimes it's hard to say good things about ourselves, isn't it? But it's taught me that I can be fearless, although I'm still too scared to drive on the motorway, but that's another conversation. But like, when it comes to creativity, I think that I'm getting braver, and like, it's just the self-belief. I feel like I've stepped into a new version of myself. Yeah,
That's powerful. I love that. Oh, and I think that came when you took off that coat. You know, that's what it is. It's almost like, rather than being scared of who you weren't, you allowed yourself to be who you are.
yeah.
Amazing.
And sometimes you can be scared to be that person. Like, you know, when you can feel that you're kind of changing, and that can be a bit scary, and it can take a while to fit into those new shoes, you know. But I feel like I've grown into them now.
You are. They're fit now. Do you know, as you're talking, I'm thinking that will make such a good Instagram post. Those are some. We'll have to watch this back and just take out all the gems, because they're so profound. Lisa says, yes, you've walked into your power. You're owning it. Stella's saying all of the field ladies. So people are
it's
resonating.
Like, you'll know this if you've ever had to break in a pair of Dr. Martens. Takes a while, but you know, they're not the most comfiest shoes that you've ever owned, so that's a good metaphor.
Keep them coming, keep them. Okay, so yeah, we've got just a few more questions left, and then we can move over to the question and answer segment, where the lovely people watching can throw you some questions based on what you've shared. But what do you, okay, so for people who are coming across your writing for the very first time, who are coming across your workbook for the very first time, what do you hope they take away from it?
I hope they take away that they what's the word that I'm thinking about? Like, they already know. Like, they already know how exercise helps them to feel. Like, they already know the benefits of it. They already know how useful it can be, away from, you know, weight loss and you're having to do the all or nothing, or go hard, go home. Like, it's kind of like an affirmation that you can just go for a 10-minute walk, you know, you can just swing a kettlebell for 20 minutes, and you can you don't have to go to a gym. Like, you know, it's, I hope that they take away from it the affirmation that they get to decide how exercise works for them, and it might look completely different to what they've been told, you know, from magazines and celebrity gurus.
Amazing. And I believe that they absolutely will. And I know part of me is biased because, you know, with you, I've been through this book with you, and you know, it is really, really great, to be honest with you. I mean, you know, I couldn't have written this because I don't have the knowledge or the backing. You know, you are so passionate about your work, and it just comes across, it really shines across. So if we've got people watching right now, whether it's on the live or on the replay, who are also thinking about writing a book or a workbook or sharing, you know, their passion or knowledge in any subject really, similar in the way that you've done, what advice would you give them? Like, what advice do you have for aspiring authors?
Well, first of all, I'd say to everyone what you told me, like your people want to hear it from you. Like people will be invested in you, people will be interested in what you've got to say, and what you've got to say is useful. And it will always be different to everyone else, like because it's you. So I'd first of all start there, like people, whatever you've got to say is important and it will be important to someone, you know. Um, and also to like just like, so I started on a Google document, like don't think about the process being a barrier. You know, we worked with what we've got. I used a Google document and I uploaded it self-published on Amazon. And so you don't need a publisher, you don't need lots of money. Like just, so my advice would be just to write, just to start writing and edit later, which is, I've done that as well, just like brain dumped and then gone back and rejigged it and things. So I just say remove some of the barriers, like to begin with.
Brilliant. Awesome. Thank you so much. And that's some really great advice, but really straightforward advice. Just do it. Just write. Don't worry about it being perfect. You know, as Karen said, she just did a brain dump, got it all out, and then she edited later. And it is about really understanding your process, isn't it?
Yeah. And like in practical terms, like I had some mentoring sessions with you. I decided to invest in myself that way. So like I did have to invest some money, but that was so helpful and it was so useful and it was such a good way to get started that, you know, it was worth every penny, Annika.
Oh, awesome. I want to throw something in there for people watching as a bit of a plug, but also it's very, very amazing because we didn't know it was going to happen. But Karen paid for like a block of 4 mentoring sessions with me, and she came to me at the start with an idea for something like this. And by the 4th session, you'd published your book.
We published the book in the 4th session. Like
Yeah.
it was amazing, really.
Really incredible, which is just really, really great. So but that's also a testament, you know, to your focus and your passion, and you know, your vision for this was so clear, was so strong. It really was just about, okay, we've got the vision, now we just need to build on it, which is
Yeah.
amazing.
And I was proud of myself as well for that. Instead of like thinking, oh, it's not enough or I haven't done enough, I was like, that is good enough. That is enough. That's good enough. And that helped me to be able to hit publish rather
Yeah,
than keep overthinking it. And, you know, it was like,
amazing.
however this turns up in the universe was exactly how it was supposed to be.
Yes.
Like,
And like making peace of it. I love that. So for those of you watching and listening to Karen sharing her story, just even like her writing process, if you have any questions at all for Karen, post them in the comments and we'll get round to them now. And while you're having a think about what that could be, I'm just going to read what we've got so far. Lisa says, I think this is about the Doc Martens. Oh yes, but they last for years.
yeah.
Transition is scary, but you're owning that transition, which is so true. We can all flick that switch for our mindset. I'd love to, maybe one day. Lisa will write a book one day. She will. I keep trying to look at the comments and it keeps doing weird stuff. Lisa said, a friend of mine told me not to throw away what I write. That advice has helped. I have always over edited to the extent I had nothing left. I'm getting more comfortable with my own voice. Sounds like really great advice from your friend from college. Octavia says, that is good enough. Love this. Yeah. And it is about, you know, I feel like, and a lot of us do this, we focus on, we want things to be perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we always, if we wait until things be perfect, we'll never publish a book, we'll never launch the program, we'll never start the business, we'll never apply for uni, we'll never do whatever it is that we want to do because we want it to be perfect. It
Yeah.
has to, we just have to make peace with what's good enough. And that sounds like that's where you was at.
Absolutely. And also, I know that I'm no longer scared to fail. That fear of failure was removed quite a few years ago. through my own failures and processes. Like, it took me 3 attempts to launch my online business before I
Okay.
finally got it right. And if I'd
I
have
did
given up
not know
that
that.
first time, do you know what I mean? If I'd have given up, this wouldn't have been an
Mm,
so I've learned that failure isn't a thing. It's like more of a learning. It's more of an opportunity for learning and growth.
mm,
And so once you've removed the fit, once you're no longer afraid to fail, you're pretty much good to go with most things,
mm.
except driving on the motorway.
So for those of you watching, that we've still got time for your questions. If you do have any questions for Karen about her process of writing her book, and it is a proper book, look, proper book, everyone.
Do you know what?
Amazing.
I don't think I'll ever get over that first day that I got there, and I was like, it's an actual book.
It's a real life book with your name on it and writing in it that you wrote.
I know. It's like, it feels like a bit like you're immortalized, doesn't it? Like, without being morbid, like this will exist after me. Like, and
Yeah,
that's quite a nice thought, really. Do you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
And also, this will travel to places that you haven't been yet. This is probably in countries that you've never visited yet.
Well, I have had a couple of messages about it to where, like, people have told me about how they've been using it and how it's helped them, and you just think, like, wow, like my little workbook is actually out there in the wild, and it's like helping people, and
Mm,
through the end goal of it's helping people to have a better relationship with exercise and movement.
yeah.
So that's like, that's the best thing that I could have hoped for from all of this.
Mm, mm, yeah. No, I love it. And Lisa says, that's amazing. You're amazing. And well done for not giving up. Can't wait to read it. So it sounds like somebody might have already put in an order. Amazing. Incredible. Octavia says, thank you. It says, well done. Okay. It doesn't seem like anyone's got any questions at the moment. So I'm just wondering, okay, so if anyone's watching, and whether it's on the live now or on the replay, oh, Rosie said, I didn't realise you had a book. Need to check it out. Oh, okay. So we just need to be like telling people about this book all the time, maybe.
I don't do that, I must admit. I know we've spoken about that before, and I tend to forget that I'm supposed to tell people.
Yeah, I feel like with marketing, it's almost like I've told them once. Why must I mention it again? I do the same, and it's like you feel like because you've sent out, like, you know, you'd have sent out a newsletter, you've done something on Instagram about it once, and you've done a few posts about it, and then you forget about it, and then even though you know it, you feel like because I've said it once, they already all know. Everyone
Yeah.
knows about this already.
Oh, Lisa's asked, when did I start classing myself as an actual writer? And I must say
Ooh.
that's something that I'm still, you know, trialing. Like, I'm still putting the cart on and off at the moment. Like, so I'm trying to step into the writing shoes and say, like, I'm a writer, but there is a little bit of me that's like, but am I? So I'm still working on that one, Lisa. Annika is doing her, but every time we talk, Annika's like,
I'm just like, it looks like a
hey,
book.
what's that?
It looks like a book, so I feel like maybe a writer wrote it because you have to write, you know.
I know.
But I suppose it is like coming to terms with it and kind of really feeling like, yes, that's me. I am a
Mm-hmm.
writer and really owning it. And it is like, I think it's probably like you said earlier about that was it the imposter syndrome bit about it. So even though part of you is taking off that go to kind of believe in yourself enough to do it, it's about putting on the right coat, and we're not quite sure if that fits yet.
Yeah. So, but we're getting there. And like, I know that, and I'll know that I'll write another one because I've got ideas. And that's another tip. Like, just have notepads and just write everything down that comes. Like, I believe that ideas are like little downloads of
Mm,
information and inspiration, and we might not always have the capacity to act on them there and then, but they're like little gems that you can come back to.
mm,
And like, sometimes when I read through some of my old notepads, I'm doing things now that I wrote about a couple of years ago. Like, do you know? So it's always like, I really believe that our ideas sometimes mean things, and you
yeah.
should write things down. So if you have an idea about anything, about a book or something that you want to write, just make a note of it somewhere that you've got that idea out of the head and you've put it out there then.
Oh, that is incredible. Oh, I love that. And I love that. It's almost like when you do store the ideas in notebooks and you stumble across it later, you're like, oh yeah, I am doing everything I wanted to be doing. Rosie says, where is your book on sale?
It's only on Amazon at the moment, self-published via Amazon. I know that not everyone likes to buy from Amazon, but you have to go with the most. That was the most accessible platform to me, so that's where it's on.
Lisa says, you're a published writer now, own it, you're inspiring. Octavia says, sorry if I missed this explanation, but did you begin writing your newsletter before you started writing your book? Oh, I love that question.
I did. So I had a blog many years ago that I kind of like deleted things on, but that was where I kind of started sharing more vulnerable stuff, and then that moved over to just Instagram really, and like Instagram posts, and then I had a newsletter. I have got a newsletter, but I'm not very good at being consistent with it. And I've got a Patreon where I do a lot of work over there. But again, you know what it's like when you're juggling lots of balls when you're self-employed. It's like, you know, when we talk about balance, and we say you can't have everything on the go all at once. It's like your focus has to be on one thing at a time. So I must admit, some of my like Patreon and the newsletter is down a little bit whilst I'm coming up with the new work with my business. But it's swings and roundabouts, isn't it? I'll get back to it soon.
And what you're hearing is that look at all the different places that Karen is writing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Liz says, got to go, but really enjoyed. You're both inspiring. Rosie says, also love the advice about not being scared to fail. So hard to get into that mindset. And Lisa said, I love that. We manifest. So let's go back to like not being scared to fail and getting into that mindset. What kind of things did you do to get there?
Do you know what? So it might be a bit morbid, but my mum died suddenly 5 years ago now. But I think it taught me that things are temporary, like nothing's permanent. You know what I mean? And even grief, like that pain, like obviously grief stays with you, but as like the pain got less, and when I thought that life was never going to get any better, like it did. So I think that I kind of learned that everything's temporary, nothing's permanent. We've only got so long on this earth, you know. What's the worst that can happen? That things don't work out? Well, we just try something else. Like, so I think it's sad that it took my mom, like, not that it took my mom dying for that to happen, but that was part of the process, and it was part of my grief, and it's part of what I took from, you know, such a life-changing event. And then, like saying, trying to launch my business, I was so passionate about it. I was so determined that it was going to happen, that even though the first few times that I launched it and it didn't work quite how I wanted to, or like something in my life happened to halt the process, I didn't give up, and I just kept being like trying again until something just clicked and it worked. But I always think, like, if I'd have given up that first time, then Deadlifts and Redlifts as a business would not be here right now. So
yeah, do you know, there's something powerful in there about asking yourself, what's the worst that could happen, then what am I going to do? Like, it's not even a case of this could go wrong, it's going to be awful, but then you ask, okay, and then what?
Well, do you know, and you know when bad things happen to you in your life and you get through them, you realise that you can get through, and like that pain that I felt that I didn't think that I was ever going to get through, and I got through it. So then you're like, well, bad things happen or things don't go right, and you get through them, and then you have a chance to kind of like try it again or try a different way or do something new. So I think it was just that we've only got so long.
Yeah.
And if we want to do these things, then we need to do them and we need to try. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. At least you can say that you gave it a go. So that was where I was at.
I love that. Okay. Brilliant. I'm saying brilliant because all the comments, like people are really connecting with what you're saying. So Octavia is saying your drive is truly inspiring. Rosie says, I think it's so important to show that things aren't an overnight process, and that's so important. And it really is, because I think as well, it's so easy in a social media kind of world. It looks like people popped up yesterday and then they launch this six-figure business tomorrow, and next week they're going on a TED talk. And actually, in the process to accomplishing many of these things, there's a lot of years of hard work and ups and downs to even get somewhere. So,
And you can't, like, sometimes this process might have started years ago and you haven't even visualized the end result. And it, like, do you know what I mean? Then you're like, oh, wow, like, how did it get here? But it's from all those little steps that you took
yeah.
along the way, you know.
Yeah, and I was saying this to somebody the other day who was I think probably considerably younger than me, but just asking like, how did you become a mentor? And I was just saying, this is how I've done it. And I said, the thing is that years ago, I just tried lots of different things. And at the time, it just seems like really small and insignificant. But like when you get like nearly 10 years on, you've got like a whole portfolio of stuff. You've got a whole bunch of years of experience of trial and error. And that's like what you do, isn't it? And with that, you can do a lot. You know, with that experience, you can do a lot.
Exactly.
Rosie says we just keep moving even if things do go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa says grief does stay, but you live with grief, but in time we use that pain. It's horrible to say, but we use that pain and turn it somehow into our own individual power. It's
Yeah,
all about moving with emotions.
I love that.
Yeah.
Takes
Rosie,
years to be an overnight success. That's so, yeah, no, it doesn't happen overnight unless you're really, really incredibly lucky. Like,
unless you're Oprah, and even then it didn't happen for Oprah. So uh, Rosie says, yeah, social just shows highlights and not all the hard work and setbacks behind the scenes. And I have to say, I have to give credit where credit is, or where credit is due. Absolutely, you're very honest on your social media about how things are going, and I think for people who are interested in working with you, whether it's through one of your programs or even buying the book, I think it's just nice to see the human side. I think we can connect with that. We can relate to that.
I was going to say, I'm trying to be very open and transparent that life is really hard and it really sucks sometimes. And I think that helps people to show up as themselves too. Like some of my
Mm,
clients, like we give each other space, that there's some days that we need to call out, and the same way that they're compassionate to me when I need to take that mental health day, the same way I'm compassionate for them when they can't show up, and it's just like being realistic about life. Like,
mm,
we can't be consistent every day. It just doesn't work like that. So I try to be really open about, my ups and downs and how hard things can be, but still we keep moving forward and
we keep
take
it moving. But thank you so, so much for being the most amazing guest. And I love that we've had a bit of a chat after the official questions where we can kind of get a bit of an insight into your ethos and your values. And I think that's what makes this work so great, because you really believe in what you're talking about, and you really do practice it. And it's real, it's real tangible. It's not a trend. Like for you, this is really real and heartfelt and intended and intentional. And I think that's so important with this kind of work.
Thank you for having me.
So for those of you who are watching on the live, I'm going to post this to my grid. Please do share it with anyone that you feel like would benefit from listening to the absolute gems that Karen's given throughout this live. And also order her book, Amazon, and then let her know how amazing it is. Yeah, support independent authors. Octavia says, just thank you for being open and sharing your process. Lisa says, keep using your own voice.
Thank you. I appreciate your support.
Thank you so much for being awesome. So yeah, if you're watching this on the replay or you're watching this on the live and I post it, let us know what your biggest takeaway was. Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a great evening. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.